every day for the last 10 years or so that we've been living in America, it has been my mom and her kids and no one else. And my mom likes to say that when she had expected that the US government would be her biggest support in raising these kids, they became the one thing that attacked her family and her children. Everything they did was legal, from letting her kid die in prison to watching her children be put in all these negative situations. All of that was legal. And there was nothing she could do. She felt completely powerless, and she still does, because we're all at the mercy of the system. And if the system is not created to help us, then why is it there? Something needs to change.
Welcome to the East Anchorage Book Club. I'm your host, Andrew Gray. The purpose of this podcast is to tell the stories of Alaskans of interest and importance. Today we have 3 guests with lived experience in Alaska's foster system: Deko Harbi, Shannon Smith, and Tali Stone. All 3 recently visited the capital in Juneau as part of a trip organized by Facing Foster Care in Alaska. Facing Foster Care in Alaska is a nonprofit organization that provides foster youth and alumni opportunities to share their lived experience about life in foster care, to raise community awareness and promote improvements in the system. This is this podcast's 3rd episode featuring former foster youth. The first, from 2023, was with FFCA founder Amanda Mativier and former State House Representative Les Guerra. The second was from 2024 with 6 former Alaska foster youth. Links for those previous episodes can be found in the show notes. The Alaska foster system depends on listeners like you becoming foster parents. To learn more about becoming a foster parent, click on the link in the show notes or call 1-800-478-7307. Working for Alaska's Office of Children's Services is an extremely challenging job, and there are good people doing good work. You will hear in Shannon's story how grateful she was for the wonderful caseworker she had. The purpose of this podcast is not to demonize OCS, but rather to give these former foster youth the opportunity to share their stories from their own perspectives. Warning: today's episode contains frank discussions about child abuse, drug abuse, and suicide. If you are thinking of suicide, call the Alaska Suicide Hotline at 988. Deko Harbi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Do you want to just start off by telling us a little bit about your very early life?
Yeah, so my name is Deko Harbi. I was actually born in Somalia. My family immigrated to the US when I was about 5 or 6. And we lived in a couple other states before making our way up to Alaska. And I've lived in Alaska since freshman year of high school.
So how would you describe your early life before you got to Alaska?
It was pretty cool. I think I had a lot of fun growing up with my mom. My mom's a single mom. There's 5 of us, me and my siblings, and we grew up together, and my mom worked a lot of jobs and she worked really hard. She also was trying to learn English and find her way in this new country, and she made sure that we never wanted for anything. So it felt very good to live with her and to live with my siblings. We kept in touch with our culture and our language. And in the lower 48, there was a bigger community of Somali people that we were able to relate to. We came up to the state of Alaska. It was a little different, secluded. Everything's far apart. There wasn't much of a community here.
Why did y'all come to Alaska?
Because we lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and when we came up to Alaska, it was right before the pandemic and all of the craziness with the riots that were happening in Minnesota. And my mom decided that she wanted to leave the big city just because we were all growing into teenagers now, and she thought that a quieter, small community would be better for us. We also came up here for the Alaska Military Youth Academy. My mom wanted us to go into a more disciplined, structured area. And since she didn't have a partner to help raise us, she came up here because the military school was really good and she heard a lot about it.
Which number are you out of the 5?
I am the middle child now. My mom has had a few more kids since, so there's about 8 of us now. So I have 4 younger siblings and 4 older siblings.
Oh, okay. How did you enter the foster system and when did that happen?
So that happened a little bit after COVID happened. I think it was 2021 or late 2020. My mom is a very wonderful mom, but she followed a lot of traditions and cultural ideologies that are not very well accepted in America. In my country, when kids misbehave, you whoop them. It's a thing that happens. It's very normalized. It's the only form of discipline that my mom has ever seen other parents use and her parents use for her. So she had been using that form of discipline for us. And at some point it became not okay. And she didn't know about the laws. And America that are keeping those things from happening and how they can affect children psychologically and all those things. She just knew this is what her mom taught her to do, so that's what she did. And that is how we started in the foster care system. That's how we ended up in the foster care system.
Because someone reported it?
No, my sister had gotten into a fight with my mom and she ran away. And then she ended up at her friend's house. Her friend's parents called OCS and they got involved. I will say the way that it was handled was completely wrong, in my opinion. There was not much of an investigation. We had a guy come to our house one day and look around at our rooms and see where we lived. And we lived in a very nice, cleanly house. We had all of our needs met. And then he left. He told us to come to their office on Wednesday for interviews. We went that Wednesday and things got a little crazy very fast. Everybody was given placements. We were all interviewed separately. And then they had put my mom in a separate room and were interrogating her for 3 hours. And then the next thing I knew, we were trying to leave and go back home. My mom, who was pregnant at the time, got handcuffed and a bunch of cops came and tried to hold her down and stuff. And we were all crying and everybody was being told that we were going to get separated. My little sister, who was 1.5 at the time, was taken off of my mom's back. She was carrying her on her back with a little sling and they took her off of my mom's back and some guy came and grabbed her and she was gone. I didn't see my little sister until she was 3.5 years old. So after that, it was a very traumatic day, and it was a day that changed all of our lives for a really long time.
Do you feel like if you guys had stayed in Minneapolis that this would never have happened?
I feel like they would have had a better process for investigating. Like I said, my mom was not aware that this wasn't the norm, and we weren't aware that this wasn't the norm. And what they told my mom originally was that she was going to have to take parenting classes, learn about the laws and things like that, and then she could be reunited with us. And that sounded good to us. And we were like, okay, we could do that. And my mom said that she wanted to go live somewhere else while we went back to our own beds in our own home to have that stability for her kids. They didn't allow that. They told her that she was either going to go to jail tonight or go back home and her kids would be separated and put into different homes. And she said, I would rather go to jail, because after arresting her at the OCS office, they took her to the police station and had this conversation with her. And she tells me that she had to make that choice because she didn't want us to be in other people's homes, and she didn't know how safe those homes were, and she didn't want us to be apart from each other, especially because my younger siblings were so young, and it was crazy.
You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but do you feel like that your mom's form of discipline was causing harm, or do you feel like it was okay?
To me, being in the foster care system traumatized me more than my mom spanking me ever did. Being in the foster care system caused my brother to be put through a lot of horrors. It caused my family to be broken and separated, and the catastrophic trauma and side effects of that trauma that my family still struggles with today are due to the way the system handled my family. If they had done it the way that they're supposed to do it, which is do an investigation, put her through parenting classes, explain to her what the laws of this country are, and have her understand. My mom is a very open person. She is not old. She's not stuck in her ways. She's very much understanding, open-minded, willing to learn as much as she can, and she's been trying to learn as much as she can from the people in this country.
How old was she when she came, and how old was she when she had you?
My mom was very young. In my country, people get married very young. They have kids very young. My mom was in her early 30s when we had came to America. I was 5 when I came here. I was born in 2005. My mom's 42 now, and she turns 43 in September.
And you have older siblings.
And I have older siblings, yes. So my mom's been having kids since she was back home. She started having kids when she was 15. She got married when she was 15. She was a child bride. We lived in a refugee camp for a long time. We did everything we could to try to get out of a war-torn country. And when we had finally came to the one place that was supposed to be a sanctuary, and my mom finally, after spending about 5 years, 6 years in America, getting her feet under her and learning how to make money, how to survive, what a mortgage is. And she finally thought that she had her feet under her enough to relocate and be able to help her family and have us, but starting to get older, getting our driver's licenses and stuff, to be able to support her now. And right when that happened, right when that stability happened for our family, is when everything went crazy and OCS got involved. To be honest, I don't think my family deserved to have been thrown into the foster care system the way that we were. I think with a simple investigation and a few clarification questions answered properly, it would have been okay. But OCS chose not to investigate, and I believe personally a lot of the reason why they didn't do that investigation is because we were immigrants and because my mom didn't speak the language. She still doesn't speak the language. She speaks with a very thick accent, and a lot of people look down on people of color, and the foster care system is like any other system in America. They have that specific bias built into it. And for us, it was like, oh, a Black mother who is hitting her kids, she obviously is doing it on purpose and is a monster and she's a horrible mother. But I have never had a mother better than my mom, and the years that I spent not being in contact with her were hell for me. Now that I'm in college and I can make my own decisions, I am back in contact with her and I love going to see her. I love talking to her. My little sister is back and reunited with her, but my mom, like I said, at the time she was pregnant, and because of going to jail, coming out on bail, everything with her house arrest, going to jail over and over, she ended up miscarrying in prison and she bled out a lot. Her baby was late term. It was really sad. She wasn't even allowed to bury him. They had to medevac her to the hospital from the jail, and it was pretty brutal. I never got to see him, but she said that they wouldn't let her take her baby with her in the medevac when she had given birth to the stillborn baby. So she threw him in the trash at the women's prison. It's really traumatic for her, and even though I wasn't there for that part, hearing about it years later and talking with her, it's so terrible, and I don't think she deserved any of that happening to her. I don't think she was a bad mother at all, and I think just talking to her and explaining how things work in this country would have prevented all of that. And to this day, one of my siblings is still in the foster care system. She's actually the third one of my siblings to go to military school because she's gonna come out in May. She's gonna graduate. And it's really cool for her because she still wants to do like everything that we had planned to do. And I went to the military, my brother, my sister went to the military, and now my younger sisters went in because that was the plan. That was the plan the whole time. And OCS's involvement didn't help anything. It actually made things so much worse for all of us. And there was never an advocate for her. She was dehumanized and nobody gave her empathy or kindness in any way through the entire process. We had so many different OCS workers and not one of them saw my mother as a mother trying to get her kids back who didn't understand what was going on. They saw her as some vicious monster that she wasn't. And I say, like I said earlier, the one thing that caused me the most trauma was being in foster care when I didn't need to be.
Can you talk about that experience? Like where you were placed and what your placements were like?
My first placement was my 21-year-old sister in our house. My 21-year-old sister was placed with 4 of us as relative placement. She was 21. She didn't know anything about parenting, so it became a household without a parent present. She didn't cook, she didn't clean, she went to her part-time job, came home. She didn't even take us to school because she didn't have a car at the time. It was really hard for a while.
Were you going to military school at the time?
No, I was right when that happened was before I went to military school.
Okay.
For about 5 months, I lived with her, and the house completely went to filth. Nobody cleaned anything ever. It became an unlivable environment. And that's when I decided the plan was to go to military school anyway, and I didn't want to live in this house anymore, but I also didn't want what was left of my family to be away from me, because essentially what OCS did was remove the responsible parent figure and leave a bunch of kids in a house by themselves, and nobody came to check on us. They're supposed to come see us every month, whatever. They didn't come to our house ever. We just never heard from them. And we would try to call them and ask about the jail stuff, and they'd be like, "We don't know, you gotta call the jail." And the jail would be like, "You're a kid, why are you talking to me?" And we didn't know what was going on for a while, but I decided to go to military school just to get out of that whole environment, it became very toxic. And I really liked the military school experience that I had because we did our...
And that's like boarding schools, like you go and live there.
Yeah. You go and live there for 6 months on base. You live with a bunch of other kids. You get like your classes for school. I got 7 credits because I started to fall behind a lot in school because of it. So it helped me get back up in school, and I started to feel normal again because I had a safe, quiet environment away from all of that. But once I was out of military school, I went right back into that environment. And
Was your 21 sister still running the house?
Yeah. And it wasn't very good. She had very little to no support. And eventually we all went to separate homes because we would fight all the time and there was no peace in the house. So we couldn't.
So people wanted to get out.
Yeah. We couldn't really stay together. My sister, and my brother, they wanted to get out. My younger siblings all went to separate homes. I went to a separate home. I ended up actually moving in with a friend at school whose mom had went through the foster care system when she was young, and his mom was able to like bond with me and was like, I understand how difficult this is, and she wanted me to have that safe space. So she took me in, even though she was never legally like a foster placement for me. And OCS didn't know that I wasn't living with my sister anymore. They didn't know I was living with that other woman, my friend's mom. They had no idea. They didn't care to ask. They would come to see me at school right before our China case hearings, and they would ask me, is there anything new? What do you want to tell the judge? For 2 minutes before the court hearing started. And then the court hearing would start, and they would just, yeah, I've been talking to Deko. She's been fine. They have been talking to me for the last 2 minutes, not for the past 6 months, but for the last 2 minutes. And that's what they tell the judge. And the judge thinks, oh, they're doing their job, but they're not.
It sounds like things are better now. You have a relationship with your mom. She has one of your younger siblings with her.
Yeah, my mom had a baby boy who's 2 years old now. She has custody of him. He was never taken away or put into OCS care. My sister, who's 6 years old, she was 1 at the time. She's 6 years old now and lives with my mom as well. My brother, who's 16, also came back and now lives with my mom because he wanted to be reunified the entire time. And they finally got him reunified at the end of last year.
Was your mom in jail because of child abuse? Was that the charge?
Yeah, I don't really know what the charges were. Like I said, the China case and the criminal case were different. They were trying to protect us from a lot of it, so they wouldn't tell us a lot of what was going on. But we had never been neglected. We were fully nourished. We did our thing. It was like everything was fine, and it wasn't an excessive amount of, she wasn't beating us to a bloody pulp. And not to say that like hitting kids is okay. It's absolutely not okay. However, she was not the type of mom whose kids you should put through all of that. She deserved some type of kindness, some sort of explanation.
Is there a Somali community here that you're a part of?
Actually, that's what my mom has been trying to do since she's done with the court case and everything now. She's been reunified with most of us. What she's been trying to do is set up a Somali community so that this kind of thing doesn't happen to our people anymore, or just people of color in general, especially immigrants, because that language barrier can be difficult. The cultural differences can be difficult without any of the OCS drama and the jail. My mom now has started a nonprofit organization. It's called All Somali Communities of Alaska. And I work with her there too. What we do is try to help educate people on what these systems are and what they're supposed to do, because no one was there to educate her on what the systems are and what you're supposed to do and how it works and what can get you in trouble. Even if it's culturally okay back home, it's not okay here. And we didn't have that resource, so my mom's been trying to become that resource for a lot of people, and I've been working with her to try and set up events and bring awareness to the community of everything that's happening, and also tell them, like, this is what OCS is, this is what the police are, this is what a lawyer is, because these are things that you just know when you grow up in America because it's all around you. But when you're not growing up here, when you're not from here, and you're already at the stage in life where you have children, like, you need someone to tell you these things. And if nobody tells you these unspoken things that everyone else around you seems to know, you never get them. So my mom's been working on setting up that nonprofit. It's already pretty much set up. She has an office over in Mountain View, and People come in, they ask her questions about things, especially right now with all the changes in our administration. There's been a lot more people coming in and asking her, like, what does this mean for my family? What if we have green cards? What does that mean? What is going on with ICE? And so we've been trying to find local resources for people to try and figure out what's going on with all the immigration laws and the changes and all the rules, because that's also been something that's been really scary for our community.
Do you feel safe and secure?
I didn't for a while, especially I go to UAA now, but things are changing in the education industry as well. And there's a lot going on with UAA's like rules and stuff, and they cut down the native program and stuff in half. They're taking away a lot of DEI, like welcoming, cultivating inclusivity programs out of our school, and they're taking it out of our communities, and it's really scary for me. So I can't say I feel 100% secure, but I can say that this has been a trying time for all of us, and we're just trying to do our best. I'm just trying to pass my classes, finish my finals, and hopefully see what happens next.
If there's one thing that you wish people in Alaska understood about folks who've been through the foster system that they maybe don't understand, what would you say that? What would you want them to know?
It's not uncommon for people to be in the foster care system, and it's not a weird thing. People would hear that you're a foster kid and be like, whoa, what does that mean? They don't understand. Educate yourself about what foster kids go through so you don't say something ignorant to someone who's going through something really hard right now. A lot of kids would talk about at school, like in high school, they'd be like, oh, my mom did this, my dad did that. And I'm like, I can't even see my mom. I have court. Maybe I'll see her in a couple months. But for us, it's really hard to just do the normal stuff. And it would be really cool for other people who are not in this situation to try to understand that this is our normal and not make people feel bad about it. Yeah.
One clarifying thing. So you have no extended family in Alaska. It's just your mom and the kids.
We have no extended family in America. It's my mom and the 5 of us now. The 8 of us, 2 of my siblings my mom had before me. They're the 2 oldest. They live back home in Kenya. They're adults now, but my mom's been trying to get them to come to America and petition for them. And then they were supposed to come in February, but then Trump became president in January and put a halt on a lot of that immigration stuff. So he put a 90-day hold on it, and it pulled their case back, and this whole thing happened. But right now, and every day for the last 10 years or so that we've been living in America, it has been my mom and her kids and no one else. And my mom likes to say that when she had expected that the US government would be her biggest support in raising these kids, they became the one thing that attacked her family and her children. Everything they did was legal, from letting her kid die in prison to watching her children be put in all these negative situations. All of that was legal. And there was nothing she could do. She felt completely powerless, and she still does, because we're all at the mercy of the system. And if the system is not created to help us, then why is it there? Something needs to change.
Deko, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I hope if anybody, hears this, the one thing that they take away from it is that there is change that still needs to be made, and there is a lot of progress that we still haven't made. Things are not as bad as they used to be, but they still need to improve.
Thank you. Shannon Smith, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your very early life. Where were you born, and what was your childhood like?
Yeah, so I grew up here in Alaska, so I'm Alaska Native and white. I'm a Nubiak. I grew up in Tudor with my family.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
19.
And so leading up to the point where I am today, so my dad, he's retired Army veteran, and he had his own aircraft business. So he was an airplane mechanic for like little Cubs and stuff. And so we were middle class, like we were handling money fine. We had a nice home. We had a yard to ourselves. And my mom, on the other hand, she suffers like with a lot of depression, and she did really well until she got into like new things and struggled with addiction. And it got to the point where her addiction got very bad, and she started stealing money from my dad behind his back. And so because of that, we didn't have much money anymore. And so we had to move down, I guess I'd say down the totem pole. So we were living in trailer homes. We were living in really unsafe neighborhoods here in Anchorage. And it got to the point where we couldn't afford a house or afford to be in like a condo. So I moved up with my whole family. It's my dad, my mom, and my little sister, Andrea. And she was just a little toddler at this time. We're only a 4-year difference. And so we moved up to Fairbanks to live with my great grandma. And once we got there, my mom started giving my dad drugs without him knowing. I decided not to know what the drugs were because we had to get like the hair tested and see what was like in my system because we were around it 24/7. I don't know what they were doing or what she was doing. And so my dad suffered from like a lot of traumatic brain injury accidents, being in the Army, crashing cars, crashing motorcycles, crashing a plane, and hitting his head. And he's a strong guy, I would say. But those drugs mixing with his brain injury accidents didn't mix very well. And so it gave him Alzheimer's or dementia. So he's in an assisted living home now. But he changed a lot. And so my mom, she was there, but she'd always leave. Like, we found out later on that she had a boyfriend. She was still married with my dad and like still come home and sleep in the same bed after she was off with whoever. But there was that. And so since that happened to my dad, he started to not be conscious. He had a stroke. So one side of his face was just droopy. And I didn't know about this. So this all happened when we had a 6-month trial visit at home. When we came back from Fairbanks is when we got put into my sister's care. So now that's all over the place. But since my sister, I have 3 half-sisters that are related to my dad.
Like your dad's kids from a previous marriage that are much older than you?
Yes, much older than me. They're 20, 30-year difference. And so they knew the whole situation. They loved my mom, but they knew what she was doing. And they would come visit us when we were in Fairbanks because they knew that we weren't safe. So they would come visit.
Got it. And so this thing with your mom giving your dad drugs, that was happening here in Anchorage, but you were with your great grandma in Fairbanks.
Oh, we were all there.
They were all together.
Yeah.
Your mom was there, your dad was there.
Yeah. So it was my grandma. So this was a 4-bedroom house, 1 bath, very small in Fairbanks. And there was a lot of generations have lived in that house. And like some people like that have lived there went to jail for sexual assault. And so that's another reason why it was unsafe for us to be there. So it was my family, my grandma's family, and I think there was my uncle's family that was living there at the time before they got a new house. So there's a lot of people coming in and out, and my mom leaving. And so they come and visit us, and they knew like something was wrong with my
your
dad.
sisters.
My 2 older sisters, Jamie and Buddy, they came up very frequently to come check on us. And like even though my dad was like under the influence and he didn't know, they were able to get him to move back down to Anchorage. Like they put their foot down. You're coming back. So we go back. And then we were surprised, me and my sister, my little sister, my full blood sister, Jamie and my sister Buddy surprised us with a trip to Hawaii. We went on a trip to Hawaii for 2 weeks and we came back and all of our stuff was at our sister's house.
So someone had gone and moved it while you were gone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like it was.
So when you got home from Hawaii, you went straight to your sister's house and didn't go back to your parents.
Yeah. It was, I didn't like how, like now that I look back at it, I don't think that's right. Like it doesn't sit right with me because I was like, I guess more, if I think about it now, it's like my little sister. That's who I care most about. And it's crazy, like just to do that. Go give these kids like such a fun, amazing experience and have a fun time and come back and you're going to be here for a while.
And so they didn't tell you, you didn't have a talk in Hawaii being like, hey, when we get home, you guys are going to stay with us.
I can't recall. Maybe there was something in it. Like maybe they did say something, but it was very brief. When we were young, we weren't told a lot of things. We'd get told like little things, even told like by our older sister, but we were very like protected with information.
So how old were you when you ended up at your sister's house?
So I was in middle school. So I think I was like 12 or 13. And my little sister was like 4 years younger than me.
Something like that.
Yeah.
You seem, at least today, you feel like that wasn't handled that well. But was it a better environment for you to be with your sister?
It definitely was. Like, I'm beyond like grateful that I was that with them, because they're the ones who adopted us eventually when like a few weeks before I turned 18. But they did adopt us, and I am like thankful that we went there. But I feel like I just wish it was different, because it's have fun and then now sadness. Like that's so weird. I don't know how to word it, but so that happened and we were there, and then my parents were doing fine. My dad, I don't know what it is, but they were given like a list on what to do to be able to get your kids back home. My dad got all of the lists done. And okay, crazy age difference in my parents. My dad is like 30 years older than my mom. So my dad is really old. Right now, I think he's 70. My mom is like 40. And so my dad got everything done to get us back home. My mom, she left. Right when we got taken, she moved to Fairbanks. She left. And so we were able to go back with our dad and have a 6-month trial visit. And this was when I'm freshman in high school. Mm-hmm. And so we went home. He did great. We were happy. And that's when more of like the symptoms of like the drugs and his brain were coming in, because we'd be there, or like my sister would be there, and then he'll be gone. Mm-hmm. He walked out. We couldn't find him. Yeah. And then someone found him like laying down on the side of the road on DeBar and Muldoon. He was just like laying on the road. And I think that's when he had a stroke or something. But since those were happening so much, and OCS knew that wasn't like safe to be, then we went back home.
To your sisters?
Yeah, to my older sister. And I would say I was very hard-headed. Like, I didn't really want to go to my older sisters because she was used as a threat if we weren't being good.
Like your dad used it as a threat?
My mom, mostly.
If you don't do this, then you're going to have to go with your sister.
It was like, if you don't clean your room or do this, or if you don't stop back talking, I'm going to call Buddy. And so that's when I was like, oh, like I was scared of her. And so I hate to say that because I love her so much, but it's like such a weird thing to use it as like not like a weapon, and then it just creates some trauma in those kids' mind. And thankfully I'm old enough to think about that. And so we went back. I lived there with very strict rules. I think it was like no phones out, or no phones in our room. Our phones had to be in the living room. We didn't have like struggle with that. Like, we were really good kids, but it was just like screen time issues. And I was not a good student. I was a really good student, like socially, but like grade wise, I flunked like almost every class. I was not good. I focused on sports more than I did, more on sports and more on being a cool kid. In middle school, I did basketball, volleyball, and track and field. And then in high school, I did track and field, basketball, cheer, but track was my main sport.
Did you feel like you were able to show up for all of your extracurriculars? Like you made it happen no matter what? Yeah. My dad, like, he was good with driving us to practice or picking us up from practice. But since I lived with my sister now, I had to do sports after school because I went to Bartlett and we moved to Midtown. So it was very far. Mm-hmm. And so I'd stay after school, go to practice, and I would have to take a 30-minute city bus ride all the way back home because they couldn't pick me up. So I spent a fair share of time on a city bus all throughout high school because I didn't have a car yet. Do you have a relationship with your mother today? No, she texts me here and there. She'll add me on Facebook to get my attention. I have Messenger and I can see the message requests. And sometimes I've responded like on holidays and I felt like I wanted to, because the one thing that scares me the most is like her committing suicide, and I don't want her to. I don't know like what's going on in her mind. So I want her to know that there is hope if she changes. Based off of the text that I've seen more recently, like in the past month, apparently she's supposed to be in Saldana and she's getting better. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds like she's doing fine. But yeah. And do you visit your dad in the assisted living? Yeah, so I have my own key, so I'm able to go see him whenever. I'll go see him. I'll bring him a Coke and like a donut or something. He doesn't really remember me. And so I just go in and eventually he'll be like comfortable. Oh, you seem like my family, so I'm going to be nice to you. And I'll
I bring him Easter baskets. I'll go see him. I wish I got to see him more because I want to be more in his life. Because, I mean, he's like in the home, like he can't leave that home unless we take him to his appointments. But I was able to get my own key. I just wish I saw him more often.
And how are you doing now?
Yeah, I think I'm doing pretty great, like personally, like my goals and handling like my emotions, and like I'm going to counseling. Counseling helps a lot.
And if there was one thing that you could tell folks who aren't that familiar with Alaska's foster care system, what would you want them to know?
I don't really know because I'm still learning. I feel so bad when I go to these things sometimes because I got a very lucky end of this stick. And so hearing other people's stories.
You know what? I think it's really important because I've interviewed a lot of folks and they're usually all horror stories. So I think it's good to hear a story with a single family kinship placement.
Yeah.
I think it's good for people to know that is some people's story. But even when it's quote unquote the good foster story, it still has a lot of trauma in it. I mean,
yeah, I just have so much sympathy for other people, and I don't like hearing that they're not going through good things. And then I'm like, well, I had a great caseworker. I had a really good guardian ad litem. And then
right.
hearing this, it's, man, I really wish they had one too. So I think that's one thing I want to point out for the foster care system and like OCS system. It's having a like great guardian ad litem and caseworker is very vital to how like the kids will feel in the later end.
I think that's important to know too, that there are good people working in the system. Shannon Smith, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Tali Stone, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about your early life.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Alaska, and I went into the foster care system when I was 8 years old.
What do you remember from your first 8 years?
Honestly, anything before that is a blur. I think I only remember like a few memories from when I was 6, but anything before then is not really there.
So your sister, Kilo, was on the podcast a year ago, so I know a little bit about your family story. I believe she was born in American Samoa.
Yeah.
And she came over with your mom to America.
Yes.
But then your mom had more kids here, including you. Yeah. Talk about getting placed in foster care when you were 8 and what that experience has been like.
Yeah, I remember the day that it happened. The day before, my uncle came home with candy, and as an 8-year-old, he wanted some candy. So I asked him if I could have some, but he got it for my cousins, and that makes sense. As an 8-year-old, I cried about it and threw a tantrum, and I was like, I want some candy. And then he was like leaving the room or something, but all I remember is my nose started bleeding. So I got hurt, and then there's like everything after that was a blur. But then the next day at school, I told my friend Janai, and to me, it was normal. It wasn't a big deal. Like my nose was just bleeding, either by him slamming the door on me or getting hit by him. But to me, that was normal, just like spanking but then when I told her, she was like, have you told anyone? And I said, no, why would I? And I didn't really think of her question then. But next thing I know, I get pulled from class, and there's like a police officer and the principal and some other people, and they're asking me about what happened with my uncle. And then I just ended up telling the story because I didn't think it was anything terrible. And the next thing I know, Kilo is coming down from her class, and I meet up with her, and then they start questioning us together. And then after that, they took us to, I believe it's the OCS building, and it was just like this little room with toys and like a TV, and they questioned us one by one. From what I understand, her hearing went a little bit different because I didn't know about some things that were going on, and mine was just about my uncle, what happened the day before.
And was it the uncle, your mom's brother?
Yes.
Okay. Where were y'all living at the time?
We were living with my mom in Fairview, and my uncle, he lived in Fairview too, just on the next street over in another neighborhood. So we were, I believe, getting babysat by my grandma because she babysat us a lot.
Gotcha. And did you go directly to a foster placement from that experience, or did you go back home, or what happened?
After that, we stayed at the OCS building for a while. I remember it being hours. And then finally, we just heard from them saying that they talked to my mom and that she wanted us to go to our neighbor's house. So we ended up going to our neighbor's house as like our first foster parents.
And how was that experience?
It wasn't so good, at least for me. Ella, the foster mom, she abused me with the BB gun. She shot me with them, and I would have to end up wearing layers of clothes, like sweaters, and I could still like feel the BB, like the BBs going through my clothes and everything.
Why would she shoot you with a BB gun?
The reason why she started was because as an 8-year-old, you're curious. I asked her, does it hurt? Because the Nerf gun doesn't hurt that bad. It's a toy. So I just asked her because it was like in the corner of the living room. I was like, oh, does that hurt? And she was like, you want to see? And that's how it all started.
And I assume it hurt really bad.
It did. Yeah, afterwards, like when she was done, I would like look at my stomach because that's usually where she would aim for. And like you just see like little bumps, like just form.
So you didn't stay there that long?
We stayed there, I believe, for a few months. They also shaved my head during that time, so I was bald.
Why did they shave your head?
The reason she told me was because she thought I had lice, but I'm not sure the true reason.
I'm sure that must have been really traumatic.
It was. I had to go to school with a hat. They don't allow hats in school, so they would always tell me to take it off. And then finally, when I took it off, they saw why, and we got investigated for that. And I think that's one of the reasons why we left that house.
Where did you go from there?
From there, me and Kayla went into a emergency foster home. That's when we got split up from the rest of our siblings.
How many siblings are there?
5.
So you and
including
Kilo.
me, yeah.
Yeah, so you and Kilo went to another one.
But there was only 2 at the time. Our youngest sibling came afterwards.
Gotcha.
So it was me and Kilo, and then our 2 younger siblings were placed in another home. We went to an emergency foster home. She lived out in, I'm not sure where exactly, but it wasn't
Outside
in
of-
Anchorage. Yeah.
yeah.
So it was like far away. So we had to take like a taxi from her house to our school every time. Yeah.
But you stayed at your same school?
Yeah.
Did you get a more permanent placement after that?
I think it was like a good few months. And then we went to our next foster home. And I think it was all girls that she had. It was good for the first day. But after that, it was the same thing. She asked me what happened to us in our first foster home because she got like some information about it. And I just told her that what happened, that she shot me with BB gun. She used to make me write sentences whenever I got in trouble, like all through the night. I wasn't allowed to sleep sometimes. And I thought she was being just sympathetic to me. But the next day it was like a whole different person. Like the compassionate woman that I met before wasn't even there anymore. So she started like making me do the same things. She used to feed me the same food. Like I was considered obese, so she would feed me salad. I'm a kid and I don't like vegetables, so I didn't want to eat it. So she would feed me that same salad every day until it's literally like rotten. And then that's when she'd finally be like, okay, next to the next one. And it was just the same thing over and over again. I missed school a bunch of times because she would keep me home while the rest of the kids went out.
Did she keep you home?
I honestly have no idea. I just remember being in the house alone with the youngest foster kid she had while Keel was and the other kids were at school. She was also the first foster home I ran away from. She just made me do a bunch of things like that none of the other kids had to do. I couldn't do my laundry because I missed a day because I was stuck doing everyone else's laundry. And she was like, we're just going to have to wait until next Sunday. Yeah, if I didn't have good clothes, though, for example, that day when she told me that, I was trying to go outside and play with Kilo and the other kids because I've been inside, but I didn't have any clean clothes, so all I had was my uncle's oversized shorts that I had, but they didn't fit. So she was like, we can't wear those outside. And even if I tried to like wear a belt or anything, she was like, you're gonna have to wait. And yeah. And then the day I ran away, she made me go clean the car outside. And I'm
just thinking like,
How old were you at this time?
I was still 8.
Still 8.
Yeah. And I was just like thinking at the time, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. So like, I'll just go and see if I can find a different home. And that's when I ran away from her house. I walked down like a few blocks into a different neighborhood, and I found these 2 guys. I was taught stranger danger, but in that time, it was like people that I was told that was going to protect me aren't. I was like, it's either strangers or go back to that house. So I just went up to them, and they were tinkering with a car or something, and I just like, hey, I'm in foster care. I ran away from my foster home. She wasn't treating me good. Are you guys able to call this? And at first they were like skeptical, which I understand now that I'm older, but I was just like, please, I just need help. I don't know what to do. So they called the police for me, and then they ended up picking me up from there, and everything else afterwards is a blur.
So did you have to go back to that foster home or no?
Thankfully not. Yeah, I went back to an emergency foster home, I believe, the same one that I lived at before.
Where you had to take the taxi from far away?
Yeah. And then after that, I went to my 4th foster home, which was the longest foster home I stayed at. I stayed with her for 4 years, and she was probably one of the most best foster places I've ever been to. We still had our issues, but I feel like she was the most authentic one that made me feel like I was a part of her family. And just like the issues were just like normal family stuff.
And were you getting to do mommy visits? Were you getting to see your siblings that you've been separated from?
Not for the first 2 years, I think. I think when we started living with Rose, that's our 4th foster home. That's when we started getting visitation with our mom, but it was only once a week or once every 2 weeks or something.
And I know that you got placed in an acute psychiatric facility.
Yeah.
Are you able to talk about that at all?
Oh, yeah.
What happened? Yeah.
The first time I went was me and Rose got into an argument. That's the first time when I went was with her. I forgot what it was about, but I just felt bad for being a bad kid. And I remember she's in the bathroom, and I just went up to her because I don't like leaving a problem unsolved. I like a solution or like an ending to it, because that makes me know that we're okay now. So I was just like, I don't really know what to say to her. I can say sorry and I mean it, like she might not believe it. So I was just like, what can I do to better our relationship, or at least make it better? So I just went to the bathroom, went to her door bathroom, and was just like, hey Rose, I'm sorry. Like, you can take me to North Star, or can you take me to North Star? And she was just quiet. And then she opened the door and she was like, you want to go to North Star? And I said, yeah. And everything from there was...
Why did you want to go to North Star?
Why did I want to go? I just, like, she used to use it as threats. Like,
oh,
I
like
was
being
bad.
so you were basically saying, okay, I'm bad. I deserve the punishment.
Yeah.
Take me to North Star.
Yeah, like,
to try to prepare your relationship with Rose.
Yeah, because I thought that was what I was supposed to do. And so after that, we ended up going. Kilo, me, and her went to the North Star building. And then they interviewed me. They said that, okay, I should be here. And
Are you suicidal? Or is that what they thought you were?
I did start dealing with suicidal things at that time. So
Do you remember how old you were?
Reason. I was 8.
You were still 8?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, Kilo actually walked in on me the first time I tried to. It was with the belt, and I was just like, I didn't know how it worked. I just knew that I didn't want to be there. Not at Rose's house. Just the whole situation. Missing my mom, missing my siblings. I didn't know what was going on with them. And again, I thought I was the problem. So I was just like, I'm going to take myself and make everything better for everyone. So I was just like, okay, this is how some people have said to do it. So I tried it, and then that's when she walked in. And I felt really bad because it was just like the look on her face. She ended up speaking afterwards, but I understood why, like, later on. She told me that it was because my mom did the same thing to her. And I didn't know that. So it didn't keep me from trying to do it again for a while. But I didn't understand, like, why she did it until she told me why. It was because
her mom did the same thing to her. It was just how she thought she should respond.
To try to stop you?
Yeah. And Kilo was she still is. She is my mother figure. Like, I understood.
How much older is Kilo than you?
3 years. Almost 4, but I'm picky and I say 3 years. Yeah. So yeah, I really look up to her. And so when she told me that, I really understood.
So when that happened, she was like 11 and you were 8?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Rose took you to North Star. What was that experience like?
It was different from how she explained it. She said that it would be moldy, prisony. So I just imagined that the whole time we were on the drive there. But when I got there, it was like hospital. So I was like, oh, it's not as bad as I imagined it to be. But everything else was just like dull and dead. Like the interview, them asking me questions, everything afterwards, like admitting me in. It was just like...
How long were you there?
My records show that I was there for 4 months. But I remember it being way longer. Maybe it's because I was just young.
You were young and it felt like forever.
Yeah. But it was 4 months.
Do you feel like it made you better?
No. I think it really shut me down. I was already losing a piece of myself anyways from being in foster care. But I think that's when I really destroyed the younger me. I was just not a thing anymore. It was just like a walking zombie everywhere. I was just going with the flow. I didn't really have an opinion. And I used to be outspoken, like very energetic and outgoing. But after that, I just got more like dull and depressed and more silenced. Because it felt like I can't speak my mind on these things, or otherwise I'm deemed as this demon child or a problem. So just better to keep your mouth shut.
Did you go back to Rose's after that?
I did. And then I believe she sent me again, but that I don't really remember. And then after that, I went into a therapeutic foster home, I believe. And she was my fifth foster home. It was okay. They had a family. They were Polynesian, and that was like one of the things that I was really looking for in foster parents because
you felt separated from your Samoan culture.
Yeah, and I was just trying to grasp at straws. And they're Hawaiian, so I was just like, yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. They were a good family, but there was some issues, like with their biological children. One of their daughters didn't really like me that much for some reason. She was older than me, so I'm not sure if it was just annoying. Yeah, I get it. But there was just like issues and disconnect. They were supposed to be a therapeutic foster home, but didn't really feel like they were listening to me. And since they're out more like far away from Anchorage, like in the valley area, it was hard for me to get like visitations with my mom and my siblings and everything. Yeah. And that's pretty much it with them.
Didn't you guys get adopted eventually?
Yeah, by our family friends that we met through Beacon Hill. That's where we did our visitations with our mom and everything. It was really good, and we met one of our family friends from there too, who also worked there and helped with the visitations. So our family friends adopted us when I was 14. Yeah, after I turned 14, December. It's going good. There are obviously some family issues, but...
How old are you now?
I'm 19.
You're 19.
Yeah, but every family has...
Right, but things got better after that adoption.
Oh, yeah. They're very kind, and also my best friend is she's my sister now, but before she was my best friend, and it's like one of those movies where you're like, you want to get adopted by your best friend's family, so that's what happened. So I'm really grateful to have them as my family. They really helped with my younger siblings too. So.
How are you doing now?
Right now, I'm doing good. I'm trying to get into school. I found a job I really like, and I really like the coworkers there. But yeah,
and do you feel like you've recovered from the trauma of what happened?
No, I'm still working on it. Luckily, I have Kilo and Neva too, my younger sister. We're all healing together and just trying to understand each other.
Do you have a relationship with your mom now?
Oh, yeah, we do. We see her every once in a while. It's not as, like, tight-knit as we'd like it to be growing up without her, but it's progress from where we were originally.
I don't know if you agree with Kilo. I believe Kilo said that she loves her mother, but that you guys needed to be taken out.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. Obviously, Kilo knows more, but I remember the times when my mom would come home with different men and different people with their problems, but she can barely take care of us, or she would just be away for days on end. Who knows when she'll come back. There was a time like that when because we did try reunification, but it didn't work because 5 kids are a lot to take care of, and my mom's a single mom. She was working at a gas station, not very good pay.
And I think y'all were living in a hotel.
Yeah, we were living in Mountain View, and then she couldn't keep up with payments, and so we ended up staying at a hotel. And then that's when we went back, but I was totally unaware that we were going back. My mom had it. What she said to me was, "Do you want to go visit Rose? Miss Rose?" I was like, "Yeah, I would like to visit Rose and sleep over." I didn't know that I was going to be sleeping over forever. Yeah. After that, I was like, "When's my mom coming back?" And Rose was like, "She's not coming back." And I was just like, "What do you mean?" And that's when she told me that we're back in foster care. And I just lost more hope after that.
Do you have hope now?
About
What's life?
I'm still working on it. I have hope that I will build myself a better life.
And if there was one thing that you want people to know about the foster system in Alaska, what would that be?
I would say not put labels on children that have no idea what's going on. Because especially, for example, me, I was labeled as the terrible child, always had issues and just hard to deal with. And it's like, I was 8 years old when you guys were saying all that stuff about me. My siblings were just babies then too. So you guys are just adults, not even trying to take the time to at least consider why we're acting out this way, or at least even be kind, because these children are going through things that you can't even imagine. So even just a little bit of kindness, it goes a long way, because for sure they'll remember you. I remember people who just said kind things to me, and I still have them. I still know their name. I still know everything. It just takes a little bit of kindness to at least change something in their life.
Tali Stone, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you, listeners. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and review us. To contact me, email rep.andrew.gray@aklug.gov or call 907-465-4940.